They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Dead Air, a horror podcast.
Brought to you by Big Baby Studios.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Dead Air, a horror podcast. Before we move on with the episode, I'd like to remind everyone to please check out the description of this episode in whatever podcast platform you are listening on, and please join our Facebook group. So we actually have a Facebook group called Dead Air, a horror fan page, where you can discuss your favorite horror shows or books or movies with other like-minded people. And we also have a page for this podcast. So that's Dead Air, a horror podcast. Please follow that on Facebook as well. And then the Instagram is at Dead Air Pod. Message that account as much as you want because I'm not the one handling it. Ask as many questions as you want. It's fine. It's fine. Someone is in charge of that account who does not mind. So please give us your suggestions because we love feedback and we'd love to hear who you want on the show and what movies you want us to review. So for today, I'd like to introduce first the hosts of this podcast, starting with myself because I'm talking already. So my name is Aaron and I'm one of the hosts of Dead Air, a horror podcast. And I am a fan of horror movies in the sense that I like the way it makes me feel. I like the thrill of it. Kind of like when you ride a roller coaster, you like that build up and then that big drop. That's the equivalent of a scare for me. I watch movies for that. So I don't like to nitpick and discuss which director, this director did this again. I see. It's such a style of this guy. That's my co-host. So I'd like to introduce my co-host, Chris.
I love how every time you introduce me, it sounds like I'm the biggest snob ever.
Yes.
Which is
partly true.
Slightly true. I like to say that I'm a horror obsessive. I really love everything about the genre, all the different subgenres of horror. And to be honest, my love for horror has only increased since the pandemic started. It's my brain has been wired that I can't take anything other than just like simple fun anymore.
It has to be kind of dark.
It has to be pretty dark. Yeah. It reflects the world today.
Oh, no.
But so that's me. Unfortunately, our third host, Miguel, our resident scaredy cat, is not here.
He's too
he would have loved
to
be on this episode, but unfortunately, he's not available.
Yeah. So we have our guest here who is actually somebody that's been in the limelight for a very, very long time. To list where he has appeared and what he has done is just going to take maybe 2 pages. So I won't do that. I'm sure you know who he is. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Atom Araullo. Hello, Atom.
Hello. How are you guys? I'll be taking over the role of scaredy cat.
That's awesome.
Thank you so much.
First of all, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on. These guys don't know, but we've been in contact for about, I don't know, like a month and a half. I didn't want to tell them, to preempt anything that you were coming on, because it's happened before where we've gotten like promises from people and we're like, oh, and then I've jumped the gun and be like, and then we get let down. So now it's like, I'm not going to tell them that I'm actually in contact with them until the very last minute. So they actually found out literally yesterday. I was guys, clear your schedules.
Sorry for the short notice, but
oh my gosh, no, not at all.
It's really my pleasure. I mean, I usually get invited to talk about stuff other than horror movies, so this is something new for me, and I'm also very excited to discuss something that's kind of something that's interesting to me, but also something that I like to learn more about.
Okay, so actually you mentioned just like you want to learn more about it. As of now, what is your description of horror? Is it ghosts? Is it?
I was going to ask you guys that question.
Ooh, we've got a very specific answer for you.
Really? Oh, sige, before you give your specific answer, I have to say maybe I'm like the everyman here, where I struggle to define the genre. Like, I know that several films affect me in a visceral way, and it's usually a mix of being scared, being unsettled, being shocked, and so on. But I know that there are a lot of subgenres. So for me, my definition of horror is just if the movie makes me scared and it touches on themes that are either supernatural or psychological. So that is my rough definition of what a horror movie is.
Very nice. I'm sure we have different things. Yeah, it does. It does.
Yeah.
I think we're kind of aligned, naman, Aaron. No, but maybe you, Aaron, have your own answer.
Oh, we discussed this before. It's just anything that is horrifying.
Yes, that's our answer. Yeah,
any image,
anything
any
that
thought,
horrifies
any plot.
you.
Yeah, that's horror.
So we have such a broad description of horror that we take in a bunch of movies that other people might not consider horror. We have discussed on the show very funnily enough. We have gone all the way from young Sherlock Holmes. Someone came on to discuss that because they saw that when they were young and it kind of traumatized them, and therefore they classified it as horror. All the way to something like very, very emotional and dramatic as Irreversible. I'm not starring Monica Bellucci, which is not technically a horror film, but it was horrifying for the person who recommended it.
Right.
So that's our definition.
That definition, pwede rin ng never-ending story.
Oh, yes.
Really?
Yeah. It's so painful and horrifying.
That horrifying scene.
The horse?
Yeah, the horse
Yeah.
scene.
See, ang daya. So I just want to explain, Atom. We had a friend who said, okay, I don't like horror movies at all. I don't like them at all. Then he goes, yeah, but I'm sure you've seen a horror movie that we can probably use. Tapos nagpaalam siya sa akin, pwede ba Casper? And Chris said no.
I said no. There's nothing in Casper that's horrifying.
It's
very subjective.
That's where I draw the line. It's the Casper line. That's it.
Fine. So, Adam, what's your horror origin? What's your first experience with horror?
Yeah, well, I have several, I have to say. I think one of my first memories of watching a horror movie was watching Chucky. Ano ba yun?
Chucky, yeah.
Is that the name of the movie?
No,
yes.
it's
Child's Play. Child's
Play, exactly. Yeah. Child's Play. I remember when I was a kid watching the movie through a VHS. So I'm revealing my age, but
we all watched VHS naman.
Yeah, I was watching the movie with my friend.
What's VHS? I don't know.
I don't know. Ginugol ko lang din.
I'm probably the oldest person on this call right now.
I remember being really, really terrified by this movie. So much so that, I had a slight trauma dealing with dolls and, the idea that something might be lurking in the corner. Also watching Jaws when I was a kid. For a time, I had like this unreasonable fear about like swimming in the pool, even if obviously there are no sharks in the pool. But it kind of horrified me, kind of traumatized me for a long time. But I think I would settle on this story because I think it's the most interesting one. I think I was in high school. I have an older sister who's a year and a half older than me. And one day, alam niyo naman ng mga high school students, di ba? Kapag nasa age ka ng teenager, parang it's not often that you express affection for each other, di ba? As siblings at that age. Parang medyo mortal enemies pa kayo niyan eh. But parang one fine day, my sister told me, Atom, I want to invite you to watch a movie with me. It's an interesting drama. It's about a brother and sister who team up together to succeed and so on and so forth. Ako naman parang wow, sweet naman na kapatid ko, parang nakakatuwa. So nanood kami ng pelikula. I think it was in Evergrotesco, and it was an almost empty movie theater. And the movie was What Lies Beneath. And I remember the opening scene was kind of it's like a water scene.
Yeah.
And there's like a jump scare there where you see like a face and the face looks dead. And then it cuts to like, it's like a match cut to the face of Michelle Pfeiffer, I think is in the movie.
Yeah.
And she's in the bathtub and she's parang getting up from the from her bath. And I was like, what the fuck? Sorry, can I say that?
Yes, you can absolutely say that.
What the heck? Napatingin ako sa kapatid ko parang, is this actually a feel-good movie? And of course, after a few moments, I find out that it's actually a horror movie. Eh, sabi ko nga sa inyo, I'm really a scaredy cat when it comes to horror movies. In real life, not so much. I'm not really like a big believer in the supernatural in real life. But when it comes to horror movies, I have like this uncontrollable, like it's almost a reflex to like cover my face, hide under the sheets, like hide behind the next seat in the movie house. So talagang my sister knew that. So she wanted to be amused by the whole experience of watching a horror movie with me. So I remember, on one hand, it was a surprise, definitely. But at the end of the movie, parang naisip ko na, actually, that was not such a bad experience. Parang even if it was very unpleasant during the whole movie, parang I kind of liked how that made me feel. And I think it was one of the first movies I saw in the movie house, the horror. And since then, I've been kind of interested in different horror movies. So I think that was that's my origin story.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah. And for someone who's a scaredy cat, the movie that you chose is
That's pretty
very
scary. Yeah.
scary.
Yeah.
It was
Very scary.
super.
Yeah. Can you tell us why you chose this?
This particular movie
Yes.
that we're going to discuss. So
Yes.
we're going to talk about Hereditary, right?
Yes.
Tama ba? Actually, it was a toss-up between Hereditary and The Shining. Those are like two of my favorite horror movies. But I thought maybe mas contemporary ang Hereditary. And why did I choose this movie? Well, it really made an impression. It really kind of informed me about the potential of the genre. Because a lot of people feel like horror movies are just about, monsters and jump scares again, or something demonic, and something that will eat you up, or like the monster under the bed, right? But Hereditary, I think, is, especially in the beginning, it presents itself as an intense family drama, and it talks about a lot of themes that I think will give you pause. I think more than being frightened. Obviously, during the last third of the movie, I was intensely frightened. But in the first 2/3, the first two acts of the movie, it was more really of an unsettling feeling. Na parang, wow, parang we are just at the precipice of catastrophe, and we are observing how this family, like a normal family, but there's something very Greek tragedy about it. Like you're watching a train wreck in slow motion. Like these are normal people, but there's like a fatal flaw within each of them, and they can't really change their fate. So parang in the end, after watching the movie, and also I have to say that it's so dark. It's almost nihilistic in a sense. Like, what is the redemption in the end? Like you watch the whole movie and there's nothing feel good about it at all. Nobody, parang, not to spoil the movie for anyone who hasn't watched it, but there's parang, I feel like, what's the redemption in the end? Like, what's the arc that will make me say that, at least there's this glimmer of hope that everything will be all right. It was kind of like the reverse. Parang you're starting off with hope, and then in the end, parang nothing really matters. So it really made an impression.
That's true. And, we're going to be spoiling the movie anyway.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
we're going to be spoiling it anyway. Usually Miguel is the one that does this. But for today, I'm going to be summarizing Hereditary. But I hope you don't mind. I'm going to be using Wikipedia as an outline. Well, my outline. Because there's so much that happens.
Can I preempt though?
Go.
What's interesting about this episode that you're listening to right now is this is a Dead Air podcast first. This is the first movie that we're talking about twice. And so that's really cool because I think it really speaks to how this movie really affected people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not, I don't think it's just them two that picked it. It's just that before we were kind of like, let's not do two. But now we're like, okay, let's do. That's fine. All right. So a lot happens. So beginning of the movie pa lang, right? We find out that Toni Collette's character, Annie, is a miniature artist. So it opens with this dollhouse that's the exact likeness of their actual house. And then they zoom in really close through the window. I don't know how they do that, but they zoom in really close to the window. And then you already think, oh, this is kind of scary because you kind of see a figure standing over the bed. I don't know if you guys noticed that or if it was just my eyes, but there was a figure standing over the bed. And then it opens with, I believe, Annie, Toni Collette's character, saying, okay, it's the eulogy. She has to give the eulogy about her mom. So she talks about her mom for a bit, says that her mom has always been there for her children, especially the younger one, Charlie. But she and her mom were not close because the mom was very secretive. So we find that out. Like their whole family is pretty problematic. Cut to, we see the older son. So the whole family, we have Toni Collette, her husband, Gabriel Byrne, and then they have a teenager son and a younger daughter, Charlie. So being a teenager, Peter's like, I want to go to a party. So he lies because he's a teenager. He lies to be able to go. And the mom is like, okay, take your sister. So he has no choice. I want to go to the party. Bring the sister. So he brings his sister to the party, leaves her for a bit, forgetting that she has an allergy to nuts and she eats chocolate cake with nuts. So he has to rush her to the hospital. And while he's driving really fast to get her to the hospital, she can't breathe. So she opens the window. First of all, before we get to this scene, as they show this little girl, we think, parang, oh, Sixth Sense. Okay, we're going to follow this kid who's probably going to
story.
Yeah, diba? We're probably going to see her see ghosts and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
She looks a little creepy. So this is going to be good, diba? Looks good. And then in that scene, she sticks her head out the window and then we see a pole and then
she's decapitated.
We don't even know that, right? It's just there's a sound.
Yeah.
And then we see the brother's face and he's freaking out. He doesn't look at the back. He just drives home. He goes to his bed. He doesn't sleep. He's just on his bed. And then there's time lapse the next day. And we only find out that it was real because the mom is yelling. You can hear her yelling, and then they show the head of Charlie. So that's the first scene. They Ned Stark, our main character.
Yeah.
Basically, pinugutan ng ulo, same thing. What's going to happen now? So this is what you were saying, Atom, like, whoa, this is dark. They killed the youngest child.
Yeah.
The youngest who you think is the main character.
Exactly. So, of course, the family goes through some shit. Again, Toni Collette takes it out on her son. Why did you do that? They fight each other. And then the husband, who's a psychiatrist, is like, chill, guys. And then, so she enters this grief counseling thing. We see it in the beginning. She's entering grief counseling for both her mom and her daughter, I believe. Anyway, she makes a friend, si Joan or Joanne. Let's call her Joanne. Joanne's like, hey, Annie, you want to talk to your kid again? Let's have let's call some spirits. So they're like, all right, let's do that. She tells her whole family, let's call some spirits. And again, mayhem ensues because the psychiatrist husband's like, you're crazy. You're going insane. And she's like, no, this is all real. See, look. She takes out the notebook of her daughter. Look, throws it into the fire. And then her pants caught fire. Like so much happens in this scene. It's insane. So we see again. So we see Annie looking through the old albums.
Basically.
The what? Yeah, it goes off the rails.
Yep.
Really, like, where are we going with this? What is this?
It's so confusing. Yeah,
It's so
it doesn't follow
confusing.
any like straightforward structure. You're like, wow, I have no clue what's happening
Exactly.
as a first-time viewer.
Kasi may poltergeist pa, may possession. Like, you don't know what's happening here, right? Is she crazy? We don't know that. So she looks at her mom's stuff, old belongings, and then she finds out her mom knows Joanne. They were friends. And Joanne was a leader of a coven. So they find out all these, like, there's some lore behind this that I want to discuss later because I still don't fully understand it. But there is a entity that possesses people, we find out. And then we even see the entity go in the teenage son. So when he's in school, he gets possessed and starts breaking his own nose in the classroom. These are the scenes, Atom, that I think earlier you were saying you automatically cover your eyes. That was me for this scene, just covering my face. Crazy. A lot of stuff happens. Like, what happens pa ba? Peter's stalked or something like that. Annie, there's a body in the attic. Help. What happens? Okay, so so much is happening. So, okay, let's go to let's go to when suddenly we see that Toni Collette is going crazy again, and she shows her husband, look, all of this is happening. All of this is happening. Look at this book. I'll show you. When I throw it in the fire, I'm going to light on fire. She throws it in the fire, and he's the one that dies from burning. So we don't know what happens next. So the son comes in. The son sees the dad all crispy. And then behind him, while he's looking at crispy daddy, mommy is on the roof, on the ceiling. I don't know how she did that. We still don't get an explanation. But the way that Hereditary scares you isn't necessarily jump scare. It's they're keeping it there, and you're just supposed to notice. You're just supposed to notice, oh, there's these creepy things happening. So there's a scene where he watches his mom in the attic behead herself with a wire because she can go on walls and stuff like that. So she's beheading herself. And then he jumps out the window because he gets so scared. And then she, headless, starts taking him to this other house, the tree house. And then you think he's dead, but he's not dead. He walks up with her in the tree house. And then the head of his sister is on a mannequin with a crown. And then his beheaded mom is kneeling in front of him. And he is the king. And everyone's just bowing to him. And that is the end of the movie.
I actually forgot about that scene. That was like insanely disturbing.
Which one? The head beheading?
That is the worst scene in the movie.
That's the worst.
Maybe Charlie's death is the worst, but
we didn't see it. We didn't see Charlie's death. This sawing was a long.
It was
how
long,
many seconds?
Yeah. With piano wire.
Ooh.
Honestly, feeling ko selective memory loss. Like for my preservation, I forgot about it. But I remember that scene. I think probably I was watching it between my fingers. So parang baka
yeah.
Maybe it was like a blur.
When I always say this, when I'm really, really scared in a movie, I don't cover my eyes. I cover my ears.
Yeah.
That really desensitizes me more than the eyes.
Yeah. I do both.
Yeah.
You're watching like this.
I've developed a system na nga where I'm both
with thumbs
covering my ears and my eyes.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I thought that was a great summary, Aaron. Great job. The movie does not make any sense when you break it down into words. But you really have to experience it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you're describing like a nightmare, right?
Yeah.
It's a strange one.
Yeah.
So my experience watching this movie, first of all, I've said this in an earlier episode, but the memory is so clear to me. I was watching this movie with my sister, and both of us just had young kids, right? And we were watching this, and then we're like, because we're horror fans, and then watching it as parents, we're just like, wow, this movie is so upsetting. As being young parents, but it was so funny because like across the aisle, we watched in the afternoon. There was an older man. I guess my theory is a lot of the older people watch movies in the afternoon because they get their free, they get the free movies, and they go like, I'll go watch in the afternoon because like no one's there. And so there's this guy. He was there, and then we were very aware of him. When Charlie got decapitated, I swear, like a few minutes later, he just stood up and walked out. So he's just like, yeah, I'm done. Yeah. I'm out. Cannot handle this.
I understand.
And we were just like, yeah, I get you, dude.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know. Yeah. It's just so upsetting. This movie is so upsetting.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the core, parang in other horror movies, there's some sort of reassurance, right? Na parang good is fighting against evil, even if they lose. One of my favorites is, for example, The Shining. Parang, the little boy escapes from his deranged father. In The Exorcist, you have this priest figure who, although, again, spoiler alert, but although he dies, that parang in the end, I think they succeed in exercising the kid and so on. Dito parang it's happening in reverse. Parang imbis na usually it starts very dark and then it becomes better. ito parang
Worse and
wala
worse.
pa nga yung okay eh.
Oh,
It becomes progressively worse.
That's
Yeah.
the bleakest. It's one of the bleakest movies I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It was a success for the cult. They could frame it that way.
They got
found
what they
him.
wanted. So if
Diba?
you want to look at it that way, they're happy.
Sure. Yeah, that's
They
actually, that's a good way
they
of putting it.
resurrected Paimon.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Can we talk about that? Can you explain that to me, please? What it was creepy and then it got
Okay.
culty.
Okay, so there's this cult that has been trying to take this demon called Paimon out of hell and put him in a human host. And they've been trying to do it for the longest time. See,
Si Lola.
Toni Collette's mother was the main person tried to do it. They talk about in dialogue early in the movie that she tried to do it to Tony's brother,
The one who committed suicide.
the one who committed suicide. Like she literally says, yeah, because she tried to put people in him. So parang she's been trying to do it. The Lola's been trying to do it for a long time. And apparently, Paimon prefers a human host, a male host. So she would try to do it to her brother. It didn't take. The brother killed himself. And then later on, you hear her say that basically the Lola raised Charlie, the girl.
Yeah.
So Paimon was in her from the very beginning. When you met her at the beginning of the movie, Paimon was already in her.
Oh, is that so?
Yeah. So he was already in her, but he preferred a human host. So the whole movie, they're trying to move
Male
Paimon
host.
from Charlie to the brother.
Right. That's why she's so incredibly distant, and well, creepy.
Creepy.
Yes,
Creepy. That was the word.
Yes. Yeah, so she's extremely creepy. But like an innocent also. So it's just so shocking. So the whole movie is trying to move Paimon from Charlie to the boy, and it's called Hereditary because like it's like almost like a genetic
curse.
thing,
Yeah.
genetic thing that's passed on from the Lola to the granddaughter to the grandson. And it involves Toni Collette and everything, and it's just So yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right, Aaron. The cult succeeded.
The cult
and
succeeded.
They're happy.
Oh.
So it's a positive movie if you're a fan of the cult.
Yes.
Yes.
And they
Yes.
achieved
Yes.
their goal from
Yes.
the start.
Yes.
Diba?
Yes.
Yeah, sila yung may character arc, ano? Baka sila yung, maybe they're the protagonist in this film.
Maybe they're the protagonists.
So that it doesn't seem so dark. We can think about it.
Yeah. So we can end. We're all happy. We're like, you know what? When they transferred payment to him, they all had a celebration. They're eating cake.
That was a
They were getting
party. They all
drunk,
had crowns, right?
Yes.
Oh.
They all had fun, and all is well for the demon worshippers.
What parts made you do your hands covered, ears covered?
My gosh, I mean, every other scene, feeling ko, like, even the opening sequence, I was already covering my eyes, eh.
Yeah.
Yung the diorama, that was kind of slowly zooming in and then becoming a real room. Parang feeling ko, what? There's something going to happen,
Dread.
right?
Dread.
So parang there's this dread talaga that's building up. Actually, the whole movie, I mean, I enjoy a jump scare movie just as much as the next guy, but what leaves a lasting impression are movies that kind of hold you in that extended feeling of dread for a long time. Parang, because the scare is more psychological, di ba?
Yeah.
And also, I think one of the things that really disturbed me is the suggestion that the family, like as the basic social unit, is self-menacing. Like, it's no longer sanctuary. In fact, it's kind of like it's under siege, from within. So normally you feel that kind of comfort na kunyari in a horror movie, when they go home and when they're with family, parang okay, hindi ako matatakot sa scene na to. In this movie, it's those scenes that are the most menacing, like the confrontations, the way they hurt each other. The reason why I also like it is because you have a genuine connection to the characters also. You want them to succeed.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's empathy there. Like, you are sympathizing with the mother, brilliantly played by Toni Collette.
So good.
And even the father, is just trying to bring the family together and so on. Pero parang these guys are broken,
Yeah.
And that's why even if they try, they're going to meet their doom. Parang ganon.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think it is not an original thought. I just read this somewhere, so I don't want to plagiarize it. But the whole idea that this diorama is this idea of control, like the mother is trying to exert control over her life, which she has no control over. And even if she tries her hard to kind of break from that family curse, it just comes back to destroy all of them in the end. So parang, again, circling back to your question, from the get-go, the unnerving clocks from time to time.
I forgot about that.
So bad, so scary. Because it triggers something.
I know. And also, I mean, parang off the top of my head, like also this scene where I think the sister had just died and parang the brother was looking at Joanne across the street. It's those yung mga scenes na gano'n na parang maliwanag naman, pero parang just the way it was done, that this menacing person
just staring at you.
Just staring at the guy, parang sobra siyang parang may mangyayari dito eh. You just know it's coming.
Yeah. I love those parts in the movie because like I mentioned earlier, right? It's always something in the scene is always lingering behind. So you're not really looking at whoever the character is, you're just kind of looking behind them.
Yeah.
Oh, that for me, I like that a lot.
Because it's really, see, Ari Aster, he's perfect with the dread feeling. Like, it's not just, it's the music, it's how he frames his camera and everything. You're absolutely right, Aaron. Parang you're just like, you're so unsettled. Like nothing, there are no jump scares, but you think something's going to happen. And then you're just like, I'm not comfortable watching this. Like,
and then you're kind of like, I wish it was a jump scare because this is so much worse.
Yeah. The physical violence in the film is so shocking. I don't know if I've seen, I have a couple of close contenders, but I think it's one of the most violent films, at least in my mind. I'm not even sure if it's really violent, but
it's pretty bad.
It's pretty bad, right? And parang minsan nga, you're right eh. Inisip ko na sana may multo na lang talaga.
Like, it's also the implied violence because it's very violent, but there's also so much implied violence. Like my scariest scene for me is what Aaron mentioned earlier when the decapitation happens and then the kid is just sitting in the car and in the corner of his eye, he's trying to look at the reflection in the mirror, but he refuses to because he knows that he will see it, what's in the back seat, which is his sister with her head cut off. Yeah. It's just the scariest scene if you watch it. Because I've seen this twice. And the second time I saw it, it was even scarier. Like just the image of him trying to look at the reflection in the side mirror.
Yeah.
Isa pa siya actually. He looks creepy too for some reason. Is it
his mole?
It's his demeanor. Parang his expression.
He's a great actor.
Yeah, his expression is so unsettling. Just his face.
It's a pretty solid cast, I have to say. Like, really,
agreed.
I mean, Toni Collette talagang really can't say any. I mean, just for her performance, I would say it's one of the best horror movies just for her performance, but also, not taking into account all of the other stuff that they did in this film.
Did she win an award for this? Sorry.
It wasn't even nominated.
She wasn't.
Yeah, this is one of the things where I'm just like, this is why sometimes the genre is so overlooked.
Yeah.
This performance, like she was robbed. She should have won everything for this performance. I mean, and I'm not biased because I love horror, but this performance is like, for me, it's just really one of the best in the past decade. I really feel like her portrayal of grief and pain. I don't know.
Yeah. And I mean, I was going to say I didn't know anything about, obviously, I think this is Ari Aster's debut film. Tama ba?
Yes.
So I didn't know anything about him. I didn't know anything about the movie itself. I had a kind of an idea that it was going to be scary, pero parang totally no clue about the movie coming in. I think that's the best way to watch it.
Yes.
Now, of course,
100%
the reputation precedes it already, but because of this movie, when I watched Midsommar, meron ng expectation. Although the movie is pretty good also, iba pa rin yung feeling ng parang, what did I just watch? Like, ito na ba yung horror ngayon?
Yeah, it's fascinating. No? I again, like I watch a lot of horror movies, and I kind of compartmentalize everything in terms of yung decade na where it happened, and you can really see how horror evolved, and especially in the last 10 years, because now this is part of the movement. Now it's post horror. It's it's art horror. It's Hereditary and Midsummer and The Witch and all of Aaron's favorite movies.
It doesn't give me that feeling. That's why I miss it. That's why I don't like it. You know what I mean? So Hereditary did, to be fair.
Yes.
It gave me that feeling of...
No, yeah, you're absolutely right. Really, Hereditary is it stands out in post-horror, in art horror, because it's legitimately terrifying.
It's legit.
It's not just art. It's just legitimately terrifying.
Yeah. Like, I think, like if you just assess it based on the common tropes of the horror genre, indeed, it's no slouch, You don't have to give it extra points for being artsy or whatever.
Yeah, I personally feel this is the scariest movie I've seen since Exorcist. And that's saying a lot. Like, because scary for me is really the dread and the payoff. Parang when you have that perfect mix, that's and then those two movies have perfected both the dread build up and then the payoff.
Meron akong side story about The Exorcist because it's the second time it's been brought up. So obviously it's like one of the classics.
Yes.
Ano rin yan that's also an origin story. Because I remember. So, parang now I realize that I have a lot of experience with horror movies and I have distinct memories about it. I was also in high school. I think they played it's like a remastered version of The Exorcist because it's an old movie, but I think they released it sometime, if I'm not mistaken, late 90s.
Yes.
So my friends and I, we went to the mall and watched it in the cinema. Again, sobrang it's one of those things that you will remember the experience of watching it, especially in the movie theater.
Yeah.
And then after the movie, alala ko nagkaroon ng parang may malaking bagyo sa Metro Manila. Tapos parang we needed like a long debriefing session. So we ended up like drinking at my friend's house. Tapos when we were all drunk na, alam mo naman yung mga high school drinking binge, no? Parang talagang wasak na kami. Tapos biglang bumagyo pa. Tapos naisip ko, imagination ko lang ba to? Parang nagkakatotoo na ba yun? Kasi talagang, I couldn't even close my eyes. Because remember that scene in that movie? I know that's not what we're talking about, but
no, go.
That scene where like this white face kind of flashes.
Yeah.
For like a few
blips,
seconds on screen. I couldn't close my eyes kasi feeling ko makikita ko uli siya.
Yeah.
So we couldn't really sleep. We just kaya kami naglalasing para at least makatulog kami.
Yeah.
So, like now that I try to recall, I have a lot of good memories when it comes to watching horror movies.
This is what we really want to talk about. It's you discover that you really do have a good relationship with horror.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's something that you're excited to watch it with your friends. Also because of the novelty of he's gonna scream, she's gonna scream. You know what I mean? It's an experience.
Yeah. I love watching horror movies with friends, with everyone screaming and it's covering their eyes and me covering my ears.
I was going to say na with all the horror movies you've watched, buti natatakot ka pa.
Yes, guy.
Honestly, it takes me a lot to get scared kasi yun nga, at some point you get desensitized. Like jump scares don't scare me at all now because I built up so much na I anticipate it. So I know it's coming. But movies like Hereditary, this really scares me because I remember for a lot of things, like when it's the dread build up, that's perfect. But especially when it's like you're so invested in the family drama and the characters, and this one is just especially traumatic for me because like family always, and about family grief, that's very personal to me, and I feel it's more terrifying than ghosts or like a slasher film. Yeah,
absolutely.
Is there any kind of horror genre that has broken you, Atom? Because, the genre that broke me, yung talagang, okay guys, this is too much, is when people are cutting themselves, like Audition, when it looks real, like when it looks real that they're cutting I can't. That broke me.
I find it hard to watch kasi like I don't know if like slasher movies. I'm not as big of a fan, I suppose, but also it's just very hard to watch for me. Like for example, the Saw franchise.
That's mine.
Oh.
That's mine. That's exactly my answer.
Yeah, exactly. Parang
Torture porn cannot.
Yeah, yun. That's the perfect description for it. Parang feeling ko, I don't know, like that's the perfect description. Parang hindi na fun to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but
it's
there
not
are
fun for
people
me.
who love it. So it's so interesting.
Massive following.
Yeah,
Torture, like Hostel, the Saw franchise. I hate it.
That one, I haven't seen Saw in a really, really long time.
The first movie is really good.
It's good.
And then it becomes just an avenue for you to just enjoy people getting murdered in different ways. But I take no pleasure in that. Like, like I don't want to see people getting killed for nothing, like I want the story behind it. I want reasons or, most of this is,
Gets.
I remember the movie Seven, which is not exactly a slasher movie, but parang there's a lot of gore.
Yeah.
But that I can take kasi parang there's a very strong narrative behind the film.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Parang you don't feel like it's like just a gratuitous use of violence.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
True. That's true. I enjoyed Seven. But the
Seven.
movie that I was talking about, so Atom, we were forced to watch this movie called Audition. Okay. It's a Japanese movie. And you know how in slashers, when you see them get whatever, stabbed or they're dismembered, you can still see like, okay, this is a movie. Yeah, it's gross, but it's fake. In Audition, it looks real.
It looks so real.
Really?
And Aaron, there's a connection with Audition and this movie because she also uses piano wire
That's
man.
right. That's
on
right.
the leg. Oh God.
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
So a lot of that, I can't.
Yeah, a lot of that. Yeah.
Hindi ako tatagal. Like, I mean, maybe 80% of the movie will just cover my eyes and ears.
Diba? Those are the only few horror movies that I can stand up and go, okay, I don't need to finish this. Although I had to finish that for the podcast. But there are some horror movies that I can just leave in the middle and not feel guilty. Audition is one of them.
Was that like a dare or somebody wanted to?
A guest chose it and we watched it. Yeah.
Okay, sige. So I'm a good guest.
No, actually, I'm so
forcing you to
excited.
watch something you don't want to watch.
Well, first of all, you said that you were vacillating between this and The Shining. Those are like incredible choices, and no one has chosen The Shining yet. So I'm hoping.
I mean, an hour before we were set to do this, naisip ko, text ko kaya si Chris, sabihin ko The Shining.
No, let's just do another episode.
Sure, yeah.
Oh,
sure, why not?
fantastic.
Because I haven't seen it.
You haven't seen it?
Perfect. Yeah, perfect.
I read the book and then I saw the trailer. And I'm not gonna shit on your favorite movie. I haven't seen it yet. But reading the book is really scary as you're reading it. It's really scary. There are a lot of things I think in the movie that wasn't shown from the book. Like there was this whole labyrinth kind of thing that really creeped me out in the book. And I found in the trailers only, because I haven't seen the movie, in the trailers, that maybe Jack Nicholson was a little OA, just a little bit, that it kind of took me out.
Fair enough.
Maybe, but I haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's possible.
Diba?
I mean, it's always tricky when you're trying to adapt something that's already like a novel, diba? Medyo ano yun, parang that's a different discussion altogether. But I mean, Stanley Kubrick, genius. At the same time, there's something about watching Jack Nicholson he's very charismatic. I mean, in every movie, he's not a comedian type of actor that parang Daniel Day-Lewis that, he disappears in his character. I mean, if you watch this, he's still Jack Nicholson. He's always Jack Nicholson. But he's so charismatic that you can't take your eyes off of him. And that's what I like about him. I haven't read the book. Maybe I'll do that sometime. But, funnily enough, I don't really read any horror books. Feeling ko hindi ko rin kaya.
Sure.
Mas overactive yung imagination ko para feeling ko hindi ako makatulog.
And yung book, hindi mo matatapos in 1 hour. So sometimes you're just like, I need to.
Yeah, the book
know.
is like 1,000 pages or something.
Oh, okay. Easy not then.
Kasi diba, it's always a cliffhanger. Like you'll end in a chapter and then you're like, oh my God, I have to sleep.
Tapos gabi pa, no?
Tas gabi.
Two things. First of all, I want to talk about going back to Hereditary. Because I found what you said really interesting when you compare it to a Greek tragedy. You know, I'm sorry, Aaron, I'm gonna geek out and do my usual bullshit. But so I did a lot of reading on Hereditary and the use of Yuma models. It's really, the metaphor is really, you were absolutely correct. They have no control over their life. They're models in kits because someone is manipulating them and making them do what they want. And it's the cult, basically. The whole movie is the cult manipulating this tiny family, using the grief that they experience at the beginning against them, you know, all the way. And so they have no control over their fate. So I found that very interesting that you compared it to a Greek tragedy, because that's exactly kind of what it is. No matter what you do, how hard you try, you're still going to be pushing up that rock and it's going to fall back down because you have no control over it. I thought that was a really spot on. Secondly, I also want to say, before I forget, the reason why we invited you on, or I've been trying to get you forever, is because I saw you introduce Trece, kasi the Trece after, yeah. And I was like, oh, and then you said that you're kind of into the dark stories. And I was like, fuck, I gotta message everyone that knows Atom. I want to get him on. Yeah, so that was why we tried to contact you. And so I kind of want to hear what you thought about dark stories, your interpretation of that.
I was going to say that it's one of the few horror movies that pays really close attention to how people deal with trauma. So parang they're not just kind of like sacks of meat, you know, that can serve as interesting death scenes. Like the way the characters are built up and rounded out is really, really good. And kaya nga it's not difficult to sympathize with them, even if they're all broken. And again, like if this were like a family drama straight up without the scary moments, it would actually work. Kasi parang you're just discussing how a family who's dealt with trauma and obviously have all their individual issues. You know, they're not opening up to each other. They're very secretive, you know, and parang they're passive aggressive, di ba? Throughout the film. And then parang sometimes what they're saying is, you know, parang feeling mo they're trying to be like a good mother. For example, si Toni Collette is trying to be a good mother to her son, but parang her words are like knife twists, you know, like she's really stabbing her son with her words. Na parang napaka-interesting niya just looking at that unfold. And then you kind of overlay that with this whole demonic cult, whatever, like cult thing. Actually, feeling ko most of the movies that really scare me are kind of the same theme. Yung hindi masyadong supernatural. Kasi dito parang even if there are scenes na parang medyo, whoa, what's going on? Like, why is she all of a sudden on the roof, or not the roof, but on the ceiling of the house? Parang you can pass it off as, did I really see that? Or is that kind of part of the insanity that's kind of gripping this family, you know? Is this kind of like a psychological manifestation of their trauma? Na hindi siya yung out and out, parang, na-possess ako ng demonyo. Parang you can make the argument that they just went insane. Yeah. And parang people are capable of really, really terrible things. And I think that's what scares me the most, because, you know, you can actually imagine this happening in real life. Like if you meet like a cult or something, parang, oh gosh, nakakatakot.
And it's not just that. What makes it scarier is psychiatrist yung tatay and wala siyang nagawa.
Yeah.
That's science. Like science couldn't save them.
Yeah, and he was such a nice guy. Parang poor dude. Diba?
Yeah. Poor family.
Poor family.
I also remember a really nice touch by Ari Aster. Yung parang yung one scene where it's night and then parang there's a jump cut and then it's day. Like,
yeah.
That was such an amazing
Beautiful.
shot.
Yeah.
Galing, sobrang galing.
Yeah.
It's those little touches. Even the cinematography was spot on.
So good.
That scene where after kid's head got severed, no? Parang I remember yung talagang yung that extreme close up of the kid and
with the
parang
hands.
yeah, and no, before that yung parang bagong yung bagong decapitate pa lang yung kapatid niya.
Si Boy.
Yeah, and he was kind of like this was a really well acted scene, right?
Yes,
Kasi parang
yes.
his face is kind of blank, but you can see in his eyes the million things that are going on in his head.
The trauma.
And that shot na nakababad lang sa mukha niya was parang so memorable. Talagang parang it's all of those little touches as well. Kumbaga, it's also a beautiful film, it's really well shot.
Beautiful film. Yeah.
So parang all of those combined make for a more memorable experience.
I honestly think that in 20 years people are going to be talking about this movie on par with something like The Exorcist.
Yeah.
Like, I really think this is one of the absolute classics of the genre. I 100% believe that.
Yeah.
I believe so.
Like guys din.
So let's give our final thoughts on the movie. So I can start. So Ari Aster, changing things up, such a pioneer in this genre of horror. I liked Hereditary a lot. I liked it a lot. The ending was a little strange for me, but it wasn't something that ruined the movie for me. Because I know a bunch of people that are like, okay na sana. And then the ending was so weird. It was weird, but it did not affect my rating of how it made me feel, of all of that. Even if there was no, like you said, there was no happy ending, I felt like that was the perfect way to end the movie. So that's mine. Chris?
Yeah, mine is I'm so happy that this movie was chosen twice for our podcast. I think our producer said that we're going to release this episode on the exact year anniversary of the last one when we talked about it. Yeah. And I think it's so cool because it really talks about how this movie has really affected people. And so that's why people choose it. And that's why people want to talk about it, because it's such an effective movie. I watched this movie again yesterday. Again, I've seen this movie 4 times already. I want to watch it for this just so I wouldn't be so stale in what I was talking about. And man, this movie, again, like I was saying, like in 20 years, people are going to be talking about this in the same breath they do The Exorcist or anything else in that level of the genre. I think this is an absolute classic. I'm so happy you chose this, Atom. Aside from the fact, I'm so happy that you came on. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's really my pleasure. It's not often I get to talk about what scares me. So I mean, if I would give my last thoughts about the movie, I mean, for me, it was really, it was entertaining. Like, it was engaging, it was unsettling, unpredictable, and also it showed me, it kind of demonstrated how this old genre of horror can be used in new and exciting ways. So it's not really just about monsters and slashers and inventive ways of killing each other, but you can explore the themes in the movie to talk about something that might leave a lasting impression. Also.
Yeah. All right. So thank you so much. And thank you for being on the show. For everyone listening, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Once again, please remember to join our Facebook group, Dead Air, a horror fan page. You can discuss shows, books, anything horror related. You can also please like our Facebook page, Dead Air, a horror podcast, and follow us on Instagram as well at Dead Air Pod. So thank you so much, everyone, for listening. And I hope you have an amazing day. Bye.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Brought to you by Big Baby Studios.